As a young child, Goldie Ghamari had to flee Iran with her family. Today, she's a human rights activist and a popular podcaster speaking out against the regime. She joins us now to talk about what's happening inside Iran. So, Goldie, the oppression of the Islamic regime, it forced you and your family to leave home. What's your reaction to the removal of the Ayatollah, the killing of the Ayatollah, and the possibility that Iranians can take back their country and have a constitutional republic once again?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. My reaction is almost a state of disbelief. Like, I still have to pinch myself to make sure that I'm not dreaming. And I've watched that announcement by President Trump where he says Ayatollah Khamenei is dead over and over again. Not just me, millions of Iranians around the world. We are so grateful to President Trump and the United States. We are so grateful to Prime Minister Netanyahu and Israel as well for getting rid of these demonic, evil Ayatollahs that have caused nothing but death, destruction, and despair for the last 47 years.
I'm hearing a lot of post-war talk about what could possibly happen. A constitutional assembly? Are we looking at a constitutional monarchy? Are we looking at even going back to either a parliamentary system or some kind of republic system? What's your aim? What do you think the majority of Iranians want at this point in time?
Well, what I can say is that the majority of Iranians want to go back to a secular democratic society. Now, what sort of secular democracy that's going to look like, whether it's a parliamentary, like a constitutional monarchy like Canada, or a republic like the United States, that's going to be up to Iranians to determine at the ballot box after we reclaim Iran. But right now, all of us, regardless of what sort of democratic type of government system we want, we are all united because right now our one goal is to overthrow the regime and to end the Islamic dictatorship. And there's only one person that we as Iranians trust to lead us through that transition from a dictatorship to a democracy. And that's His Royal Highness King Reza Pahlavi, because he has made it very clear that he is committed to the ballot box and to the results of that national referendum.
How hard is it going to be to actually win this on the ground? I'm hearing reports that the Revolutionary Guard has over 2,000 generals that are still in place. The clerics are trying to elect another Ayatollah. It looks like the son is the #1 candidate. It seems like we still have a long way to go, and the citizens are unarmed. And so as long as the Revolutionary Guard is there, they're putting their lives at risk trying to take their government back. So practically, how is this going to happen?
I mean, I don't have the plan because I'm looking at this from the outside. But what I can say is that both President Trump and the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, who's the leader of the Lion and Sun Revolution, both of them have made it clear right now to Iranians that now is not the time to go out. It's very dangerous because the United States and Israel are currently in the process of getting rid of numerous IRGC bases, facilities, and people across occupied Iran. And they have said that when the time is right, they're going to give a signal with a specific demand, a specific request. And so Iranians would know. We also have news of several thousands of Iranians defecting from the military and from the IRGC, and they're currently staying at home. And they put out messages as well. So I don't quite know how exactly it's going to happen, but I have a lot of faith in President Trump. I have a lot of faith in Prime Minister Netanyahu, and I have a lot of faith in His Royal Highness Reza Pahlavi.
There's reports that the Kurds are being armed by the CIA, that there's an attempt for them to come in and, I guess, be ground troops in Iran. What would be the reaction there? What would the average Iranian think if a Kurdish fighter comes across the border? What would be that response?
That would actually be very insulting to Iranian Kurds because our Iranian Kurdish population is very, very patriotic. They're very loyal to Iran, and they're actually not fans of the separatist Kurdish proxy groups coming out of Iraq, especially since many of them, including the ones in Erbil, sent messages of condolences on the death of Khamenei. So I would say anyone who's speaking about Kurds, they need to be very clear which Kurds they're speaking about. If they're speaking about arming the Kurds who are already in Iran, yes, 100%, because they are very, very loyal. They're Iran first. But if they're speaking about those Kurdish terrorist groups that are outside of occupied Iran, they would not be treated very friendly. They would not be welcomed by Iranian Kurds in occupied Iran because they don't share the same interests as us.
In the aftermath of the Ayatollah's death, there were sort of two narratives. One showed the mourning population and grieving his death, and this rally, everybody dressed in black and lifting up their right fist and saying "Death to America." And then there's the sort of the rest of the country, and there seems to be celebration in the streets. The video that I think will be forever in my mind is the little girls in school tearing off their hijabs and just screaming for joy that they could actually live without someone beating them for how they have a headscarf. So what's the reality? What should people believe? Which side of this story?
I would say believe the children, because children are innocent, children are pure, children speak from the heart. And the fact that this is how Iranian children were reacting to the news of the death of Khamenei, that's the truth. That's the reality. There's also a video of young boys who heard the news, and all of a sudden they start cheering and they say, one of them says, "I love Trump." So I think if people want to know the reality, pay attention to the reactions of the children. The ones who are sobbing and pretending like they're upset, those are the same people who are oppressing the rest of us. They are part of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. Those are the Muslim Nazis that are responsible for murdering the rest of us. And so I have zero sympathy for them. And I actually hope they get the same treatment as all the other terrorists.
Another thing I'm hearing is that there's danger that Iran will turn into another Gaza, that it'll be forever this sort of murderous death cult version of Islam. You've told me, and I was staggered by it, that the majority of people in Iran are not Muslim. What are they, and can we rely that if there is a change in government, that it won't turn back into some kind of radicalized version of Islam?
The one thing I can say about prior to 1979, I would say the vast majority of Iranians were Muslim, but it was kind of like just, a secular Muslim, right? Non-practicing. And that's why Iran was very modern. Iran was an ally of Israel, an ally of United States. And before 1979, there was freedom of religion. The one thing that the Islamic Republic has been able to achieve very successfully is making Iranians despise Islam, especially after the mass slaughter just this last month of somewhere, between like over 50,000, probably closer to 90,000 Iranians, all in the name of Allah and Islam and jihad. Iranians were sick and done with it. Even those Iranians who are Muslim, they want nothing to do with political Islam. We don't think religion has any place in government. We want to go back to what we were before, which is a country that represents all religions, and everyone is free to practice their religion equally. The vast majority of Iranians just, Islam doesn't even align with our Iranian identity and values. Islam is like a cult of death and martyrdom, whereas Iranian culture and civilization is about light and celebration and life. Very similar to Christianity, and I think that's one of the reasons why you're seeing a lot of Iranians convert to Christianity, because the teachings of the Bible align more with Iranian values. And so the two fastest growing religions are Christianity and Zoroastrianism.
Well, it's such a change in history. I'm old enough to remember the revolution, the amazing cassette tape revolution. So here's the Ayatollah preaching into a cassette recorder. Those cassettes get reproduced and distributed throughout Iran, and it's the Shah's leading this secularization, and it's against Islam, and we need to restore righteousness to the land. That was I guess the rallying cry for the revolution. So you're saying all of that's done, that the decades under this theocracy have convinced them that Islam is not the way forward.
It's done. It's done. When the Islamic regime is overthrown, we're going to see the biggest decolonization of an Islamic invasion since Spain. Spain was the first one that was able to reclaim themselves from the Muslim invaders. Iran's going to be the next one because, again, as Iranians, our identity, our culture, our history goes back thousands of years to before Islam was invented. And that's why we're calling our revolution the Lion and Sun Revolution, because the lion and sun is a symbol of Iran that goes back thousands of years.
That is a brilliant historical analysis. That one had not occurred to me. But in the current political climate, I've got to point out, Spain is now saying this is an illegal war, that this should have never happened. France has joined in with that. And I'm going, don't you remember the sack of Burgundy? Don't you remember what happened at the Battle of Tours? Don't you remember you were really close to becoming an Islamic nation and under Sharia law? What's your response to people to say that somehow this is an illegal war?
Well, the only reason that France and Spain are saying that is because they're catering to their Muslim jihadi base. It's actually the same thing that's happening in Canada right now. Prime Minister Mark Carney, very shamefully last night, he said that he thinks that there should be de-escalation, and he thinks that Israel and the United States should go back to the negotiating table. So even in Canada, we have a disgraceful prime minister who is pushing for negotiation with a brutal Islamic dictatorship that has been murdering us Iranians for the last 47 years. Why? Because he's concerned more about his voter base. And I think right now, Europe is actually a bigger jihadi terrorist threat than Iran, right? And so you have these Western politicians saying what they're saying in order to cater to their Muslim voter base because they've mass imported these jihadis into their countries.
Goldie Ghamari, thank you so much. Your insights are brilliant. You've given us a wonderfully hopeful perspective that there can be a free Iran. So thank you for that, and thank you for joining with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you. May I just add one thing really quickly?
Sure.
I was listening to you earlier, and you mentioned that you have a Farsi channel as well. I just wanted to say I think that's fantastic, and I hope that in a free Iran, you guys are able to open up a Farsi news station in Tehran. I think that would be amazing.
I look forward to it. Yeah, the channel is called Moabbat, which means love in Farsi, and the English version is Heart for Iran, and we've been doing it for 20 years. We've been doing it under the radar, but with this war, I decided, well, it's time to get open with this because it's now more than ever. Let's preach the gospel to Iran. It's wonderful to see. So thank you.
For that.
Thank you for that endorsement. I appreciate it.